Well, hello, Bame Farm fans. Well, that took a while to get it split. We were there for a couple hours. It took, well, this is day 2 of this project. The first day, spent a lot of time getting things apart. And then today, we spent a lot of time taking things apart. The first day was all splitting lines, electrical. We ended up pulling some stuff out of the cab. We took the seat out. We can't see it. We see some remnants. Dug out. Still a bunch there we got to work on. You know, a couple acres of dirt off this tractor from northern Indiana. Gotta love that dirt. Apparently it must really get everywhere, because we don't have that issue. I mean, yeah, sure, we'll make some dust, but it does not accumulate on the tractor in acres like this. And someone's going to say, well, why didn't you power wash it? Well, if I start taking it apart, and it's hard to move it, because I took the batteries out, the steps are off, take out the cab half part. I don't have the luxury of having all these fancy things, like, you know, say a wash bay in the shop, and being able to roll it around. I have to be rolling it outside with it half disassembled, so we're going to shop vac and scrape and pull it all off. How are we moving this thing? We got 2 roller jacks, floor roller jacks. Those are really nice. What made that work is down there in the darkness, there's a hole in the frame, so I've got a piece of pipe through the board, through the top of the jack, and we took the factory pads off the jack, so those rolled with the front end, which we just turn with the breaker bar handle. We got lucky. The PTO shaft came right out. I've been told that we might have had to take the MCV apart to pry the gear off the end. We didn't. We got lucky. Where we did not get lucky is over here on this side. It's not supposed to be an S-curve in that line. Those steel lines are supposed to be straight. When you go to roll the tractor apart and it comes back together, there's usually a reason why. And well, it just took us a while to figure out why the tractor was springing back together. So that was that. Brad's over there having fun. Oh! Let's see, we left the starter on. There's tons of wires. Throttle cable. Exhaust was a little too tall. There's oil everywhere. That's what that looks like down here in the darkness. Side of the transmission. But yeah, we're gonna put a TA in it and first gear. First gear has a ticking noise. So we have it this far. We're gonna put a TA in it, and obviously we need the clutch. And pulling it with the 4-speed at least gave us more weight, so the front end wouldn't tip away from us. So eventually we're gonna have a cherry picker in here, and we'll lift this off once we start stripping down everything off the outside. Then we'll have to be prepared for the front end to go crazy on us. But right now we have a 2, kind of minus a 2. We got 2 halves.
Oh boy, I'm finally getting to editing this video. It's been 2 weeks at least since we did all this work. At least. I've had some rainy days, but just been putting this off. Spent some more time fixing. Unfortunately, I didn't necessarily get all the footage. And we're going to see here in this little clip a lot of cleaning and digging and suction. Like being a dentist, we need more suction. Get all that dirt. I think I filled at least... Well, I mean, there's only so full you can get a shop vac. I mean, I'm not getting it filled to the brim, but I'm getting filled to the bottom of the filter inside. I think I've done that at least twice, if not 3 times. There's that much dirt. Of course, I also went in the cab and tried to suck everything off the high-low end of the transmission. Oh, yeah, so this is happening kind of mid-April-ish. We got all the chisel plowing done the beginning of April, that first week, and then we haven't had much for weather since then. There's been a couple times where it's been questionable. We could go out there and try to disc and make slabs, where the top is dry where we chisel plowed, but if you dig down any, it'll probably be muddy. So I guess we've been holding off, not getting too antsy, and especially with the cold we had last night. This is Mother's Day weekend, and I found a 1/4 inch of ice on a 5-gallon bucket of water we'd left outside. So yeah, definite freezing temperatures. It didn't really frost because there was enough wind, but it was cold. It was cold. Now, Mother's Day is 90% frost-free date, and right now this year, at least for us in southern Ohio, we're testing that. Oh, well, what are we doing here? So we see that roller jack that just went underneath the 4-speed. We're trying to catch the belly pan. Now, the belly pan has the clutch, or the transmission brake, that has a pad that goes against the gear when you shove the clutch in to slow the transmission down so you can shift it. Well, in the 2+2s, there's an extra hydraulic pump they mount, and you have a whole belly pan. It's not just a plate. It's more than a cover. Well, we fought and fought and fought because there was one hidden bolt in the very front, hidden between 2 caps on machining ports. Like, they're pipe thread plugs or something. And this one last bolt was not affixed in the plane of the other 14 bolts. It's kind of hidden between the 2 caps for those machining holes, because there's 2 shafts that have 2 gears to drive an extra hydraulic pump. This has an extra large hydraulic pump for the MCV because there's 2 steering cylinders. It needs more steering capacity than a 2-wheel drive tractor. Yep, we're doing more cleaning, more cleaning. We're about to pull that 4-speed shift cover off. And underneath, we're going to find need for a new tool, which we see right now. We are using a hammer impact, which is kind of new for me. I've never heard of it. It's mostly used for screws, from what I've found out, because International had a John Deere moment and used flathead screws instead of a regular hex cap bolt. So yeah, the hammer impact was slower than a regular impact, but the hammer force keeps the bit in the head of the screw, so it doesn't try to pop. It's not going to pop up when you turn it. And it worked. It was wonderful. So for the $40 I spent on it, we got the 4 screws out and we were on our way, and we can reuse those screws.
But we have the 2+2 all apart in here. We got the 4-speed pulled out. There's the clutch. That was, say, half the problem. And if anybody's from northern Indiana and knows where this came from, and those characters told this to me, I have his name, but I guess I won't slander anybody right now. Oh, either I'm that unlucky, or maybe he knew that the clutch was going out. So I didn't get too much use out of it. I don't think I used it that much to cause that sort of cracking. Yeah, you can see there's a pile of clutch dust in there. From this angle you can't tell. Oh, but if you look at it from the side and I get close enough, there's no ceramic left. What you see here is the plate that the ceramic is baked to so they can rivet it to the disc. Oh, the 4-speed's apart. Got it hanging here. The front end is now tipping forward. We got jack stands. We got our roller jack just sitting there for good looks. You got a jack stand up front. Ooh, right there, holding the front, because it's going to tip forward, thanks to the engine being so far forward. We got all our parts. The more specialized internal parts, got them in a box. Here's our main shaft, just pulled out of the top. These gears look pretty good. There's one thing I didn't realize, that 3rd and 4th gear, 4th gear's direct power through this shaft, doesn't go through the counter shaft. And I was always looking at this wondering why there was only three gears. Because the 4th is inside to lock it up. That's beside the point. Somebody, I got a new mechanic friend giving me a hand. Well, over the phone. Says I got lucky that the PTO gear came off PTO shaft. We just pulled it apart. The biggest issues we had is over here in this box. Well, I bent some of these metal lines pretty good, getting it apart because I misjudged where a couple lines went. Oh yeah, there's tons of dirt. Got it down to a dull roar. That's that in there. If we look, oh yeah, the hollow shaft for the PTO is well worn. Input for ground power there looks pretty decent. It's all black from clutch dust. Now the real issue is not this. We're gonna look at it. Look how much the the pressure plate's worn. Yeah, that goes with that PTO shaft. Now the TA tested fine, but we came this far. We're gonna replace it. We're assuming that the TA was fine. I gotta like maneuver around the hoist here. Yes, the cement block building is very tight. We got the nut off. There was no tabs, so that was a left-handed nut. We've been doing with a lot of left-handed things here. Oh, I mean the bearings seem okay. Now this all looks good. I'll position the light to make it easier to see down in here, hopefully. Now watch out. I gotta turn this. Down here on the counter shaft, we're gonna pull this out eventually. Oh, what is that mess? Yeah, like I don't know how you do that. I know how it gets. I know what happens. You break one and it just runs through the rest. But how do you get it started? Somebody must have jammed this in gear. Yeehaw! Yeah, that wasn't me. Okay, so to be fair, I did buy the tractor with that little problem, and I kind of knew that first gear had an issue, and I just planned on not using first gear. You know, they got the 1586s, the 3788s, have a 3-speed. TA I thought worked fine. Oh, and well, since we developed these clutch problems, oh, might as well fix it, but since the TA seemed to test out when I looked at it, you know, we just use it like one of those and have one less gear. Well, we're here. We're gonna fix it. Gotta start taking stuff apart on the front. This lower cover makes it so we can drive out the counter shaft and then pull the gears out the bottom. Gotta start taking everything apart everywhere. Disassembly so I can pull the TA out. Try to get that on video. It's gonna be like a high speed up thing. I don't like fix-it videos. Fix-it videos it's so hard. There's so much to cover. I have 3 hours worth of video or something crazy. Not to say it bores me to watch, but it's about like golf for me. It's more fun to do than to watch, and it's very hard to I don't know, make it speedy. Like there's certain information when I'm fixing something, I want to find information quick. But it feels like it would take me forever to get that information summed up in a video. And I've yik-yacked here long enough. We've seen my problems. Something I do want to ask everybody about while we're here. You can see how much play should be in those splines. If you can see that, the top has about as much play also. So I'm unsure what that means. And then I need to look up and see how much backlash there is in the front differential. Oh well, it's only iron. It can be fixed, right?
Well, here begins the rest of the joy of taking apart the 4-speed. It took me a while to figure out that there were so many Woodruff keys holding things in place on that little rock shaft for the throwout bearing. There was 3. Didn't strike me that how many more there would be holding the fork for the throwout onto that shaft. Oh, and so I'm getting other things out. I gave up on that project for a hot second. Went to play around with some other stuff. And now we're working on getting the counter shaft out. Now that's gonna go forward through that lower cap that I just showed previously on the front of the 4-speed housing there. And conveniently it'll pop out the bearing for the PTO gear. And by bearing I mean the race. Oh, some folks would call it a cup, and then the tapered roller portion, the cone. But I like to think of it as a bearing in a race. Makes more sense. Because if you call it a cup, well, there's a big hole in the center. It's not going to hold anything. Yeah, about to show off first gear again. That was ugly. Oh, the fun part. Now, half the reason I'm shooting this video is so I could remember how some of it went back together. But I like these puzzle kind of things. I got a manual for it, which I mostly need the manual to know how many shims to put where and which sort of end play. Which when we put it back together, we'll see all that joy. I hope I can find a dial gauge in the family engine kit.
Over here in this corner, we have our lovely box of countershaft parts. Yep, that's why first gear had a bit of a noise. Somebody must have really wanted it in first gear too hard one day. All the other gears look pretty good. Now I gotta pull the TA out. That'll be exciting. Probably gonna have to put the transmission casting on the floor instead of leaving it hanging here, and I'm sure a bunch of you are gonna gripe about it's hanging in the air. You get your sea legs working on it because it wobbles around, and it's done. Didn't fall. Try to use a solid chain, I think. See what happens. Where can I put a hand up?
Right there, put a hand up.
Oh, hell. Come on. Oh, we moved it, but I can't get it.
That's a positive. We didn't move it.
Yes.
If we moved anything, we moved that.
Yeah. I gotta get it lined up to get it out.
I know how to get it out.
What?
Get a torch.
Oh, come on. There we go. Now I know why they've got a thing about yeah, they show a hoist pulling this thing out of the transmission housing.
Yeehaw.
Yeah.
You know the best way to pull it out of transmission housing? Get a bulldozer.
Feel really strong. One TA coming at us. Woo!
Yeehaw.
Greasy
TA.
floor.
TA is out.
Yeah, buddy.
Ready for a clutch.
Oh! There's the TA.
Camera recording.
Yeah. Oh, it's in there. That was really annoying to get out of there. Because my foot went right in the oil slick.
Yeehaw.
Yeah.
More cat litter.
Yeah. Now I had some traction. Well, that's now apart. It's like a big gaping hole.
With all like big gaping holes.
Oh boy. Too much.
Well, Nick graced us with his presence that day. So I got the 4-speed apart, and I just kept going. Because I saw a little bit of oil weeping out of the seal at the end of the flywheel shaft. And it wasn't enough to get the clutch coated, but it was seeping. So I decided we're going to take the transfer case apart. And while we're there, we're going to put new bushings in the pivot pins. Let me tell you, get ready. If you got a 2+2 and you want to put bushings in it, get some Vaseline. And now I will have a video about putting it back together where I will discuss why such a need. Oh, gonna get the hoist back out. Yep, that's been lovely. Pulling all this apart, lifting things off. I love the high-speed video. You can see that it didn't quite have the stop fully tightened, and we see the arms slowly lowering. On a side note, earlier in the video you saw my uncle wearing a John Deere sweatshirt. Unfortunately, he has a little John Deere tractor about the size of our TC30, and that sweatshirt was given to him by a family member at Christmas. It wasn't me. I don't know who gave him that sweatshirt. I would give him a red one, just for kicks and giggles, I guess. Well, would you look at that? There comes a transfer case. I think the bushings have been changed before, because if we look at the top bushing there, I got the bolt out already, so we see that small hole behind where the bushing is. Originally, there was 3 holes, and there's only 1. And reading the online parts diagrams, there's a note. For some reason, they changed the replacements to only having 1 bolt. So that's good that they've been replaced. Somebody's at least paid attention to that. Scraping more dirt everywhere. Dirt, dirt, dirt. And I'm going to put new bushings in the end of the steering cylinders also, just because we're there. Now the other end of the steering cylinders, I'm going to wait until the tractor is back together, because I have to get up underneath, I think, to get in there. I'm not going to do that while the front end is balanced on a jack stand. We'll be a little safe every once in a while, even though I've left the transfer case and the 4-speed hanging on the hoist while I've worked on them. We don't use the hoist that much. It's been 20 years since we worked on the 1086, and that's why we bought the hoist, was to work on the 1086. Which is another thing why I'm not scared to work on this, because hopefully Dad remembers a little bit from the 1086, and most of this will be similar-ish.